Hey, welcome back to the channel. So I want to talk to you a little bit about my experience the other day. We had the first home football game for Oklahoma State, and my daughter just happens to be on the Palm squad this year, if you haven't been following along with some of my videos. And we were real excited about going. Of course, it was the first one. And the plan was she wanted us to meet up there about 2 hours before the game and do some photos. Of course, me being the photographer dad, I wanted to take more than just a cell phone. So what I wound up taking with me is the A7CR, the 40mm 2.5, and took a few photos with that, just to get a few, before we started. And then they had like a little parade there, leading the team down the road to victory to the stadium. I took a few photos during the parade. They just walked by real fast, and you kind of get what you get, and that's pretty much all there is to it. But that was pretty much the end of the pregame festivities, as far as taking photos and videos and stuff. A7CR 40mm 2.5. The rules for the stadium are, they have rules for what cameras you can and can't take into the game. And the rule is no matter what kind of camera you have, the lens cannot be more than 3.3 inches long. And the 40mm 2.5 fits that. So I was able to get into the game with that camera and lens combo. Of course, that wasn't going to be long enough telephoto to do any kind of good in a huge, 50,000 fan stadium, and that's just not going to do any good. So my plan was for the game to actually take my RX100 Mark VII. So that turned out being pretty much just a pretty perfect combination. It was a day game, so I didn't have to worry about shutter speeds and light and all this stuff. But for this particular scenario, it was just the absolute right choice. And there's a few things about that camera that just make it an absolute great camera for this type of scenario. And I'll kind of run over that with you right now. The number one is the lens. The lens being 24 to 200 is just, it is so versatile. I wish it could be faster. You can easily sneak it in. I mean, you don't have to even sneak it in. You can just put it in your pocket. Nobody has to know you're, with the camera or anything. You pull it out of your pocket, boom, you have a 24 to 200. And from where I'm sitting, I can pretty much take photos anywhere on the stadium I want, as long as it's on my side of the 50-yard line. So you have to be real careful with your shutter speed. You get up there too high shutter speed and you're gonna be introducing a lot of noise into your photos and pushing your ISO way up. So I try to be respectful of that. I kept everything around 200 to 300th of a second, which is pretty appropriate for kind of what my daughter does on the sidelines, and I thought that was pretty good. I wish I could go up to 500th. Next time I want to try to do that. Just to get the freeze of action a little bit better, but I think that'll be plenty. You're shooting sports and stuff, you want to go up to 1,000th, but this isn't, that fast action, so that should be fine. But you just have to be mindful of, how fast you're pushing the shutter speed with the slow lens. The next thing that makes it ideal camera is the viewfinder and the stabilization. It kind of all wraps into one. Now they were out doing their dance pregame, and then at the end of the first quarter. And I'm just holding the camera like this. I mean, I'm zoomed out at 200 millimeters and I'm going crazy, I'm not looking at the viewfinder or nothing. I'm just trying to hold it as steady as I can. I'm looking at the, the big screen, trying to see my daughter on that. I'm yelling and screaming and going crazy and, trying to hold the camera steady. I mean, it was just a wild scene for me. And I thought the camera did a good job of keeping everything fairly stable, especially being at 200 millimeters. Now, when I wanted to really stabilize the footage, and this is what impressed me, is I was able to use the viewfinder and put that up to my face, and just having that extra bit of, that third point of contact, I guess you would say, really, really stabilized the footage. And I got, I thought was exceptionally smooth footage using that technique. And then also the viewfinder, while I'm taking photos, I'm actually able to look through there, even though it's the littlest bitty viewfinder that you've ever even seen. I'm able to look through there, just peek through there and get exactly what I want in the viewfinder, get my focus point exactly where I want it. It is so clutch. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just almost impossible for me to go back to a camera without a viewfinder, because it's just become so important to the way I shoot. You know, using a cell phone, you have like a iPhone Max, you have like a 7-inch screen. You can clearly see what's going on. You know, you switch over this little 3-inch or whatever it is in a camera like this with no viewfinder, it gets harder to see. The two things, like I say, the viewfinder is just so clutch on the the RX100 Mark VII. It's just absolutely nuts. Even though one would think it's just absolutely trash for how small and little it is. I mean, it pops up. I mean, I probably look like an idiot viewing for this little video viewfinder, but boom, stabilized the footage, got all the photos that I wanted perfectly in focus and exactly what I wanted. Those two things, the viewfinder and the lens, make the RX100 Mark VII just an ideal camera to take into these type of scenarios, into a ball game. I don't know, it just worked out perfect for me. Now, next time, I'm thinking about trying to slip in the Tamron 28-200 just to see if I can get it through. It's a 4.5 inches long, so it's a little bit outside the realm of what they're allowed into the stadium. I might try to split it up. I might try to give the lens to my wife and take the camera in myself and see if we can split the two up and get in that way. That would be, of course, just the ideal solution, but I don't know. You get up to the gate and they turn you away. Now you got, you have to walk a half a mile to your car to put everything up. So you don't want to get caught in that scenario, but I might just try it next time to see how it goes. Also, I was thinking they have a 28-200 for the Lumix in the Lumix system, and it's 3.5 inches long, and that just barely, I mean, I think I could get in with that pretty easily, but man, that lens is like a $900 or so, and I just don't know if I want to spend that kind of money, for a lens that I'll only use just a little bit. I just wouldn't use it just a whole lot, except for in this one scenario. It's just kind of hard to invest that much money, in a lens like that I won't use a whole lot. But anyway, for the most part, RX100 Mark VII is perfect for this type of deal. When it gets into the night games, it'll be a little bit more difficult. Even with the lights on, it can be pretty dim. But that's my plan. That's my plan. RX100 Mark VII. Might try to slip that Tamron in next time just to see how it goes. Anyway, that's a story of my first game day being a Palm photography dad. It was a good time, man. First time, you watch your daughter come out on that college field and your alma mater, and I just to know how much she's worked and trained and sacrificed to get there. It was just an unbelievable experience. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.